Welcome to the Rated Rabbi Sports Card Podcast, where sports cards and pop culture meet the 1984 All-Star Game. I am your host, Rabbi David Spinrad. This is episode 23, Games About to Start. But before we do, I just wanted to mention where I just came from and why I'm wearing the suit. I just came from the cemetery, just came from officiating a funeral of a woman who was beloved by her family, her brothers, by her daughter, by her community. And it really does put things into perspective. I do quite a few funerals, to be honest. It sort of comes with the trade, and difficult always, to be sure, and yet nothing brings what really matters into better focus than standing at a graveside. In the end, we will not be remembered for the cards we collected. We will be remembered for our relationships with people. We will be remembered for the kindnesses that we showed. We will be remembered for the love that we gave. The cards are cool, the cards are fun, but in the end, nobody's going to remember us for our cards. Game's about to start. I'm trying something new here for episode 23. I'm hooked up to the Wi-Fi. I'm not hooked up to the Wi-Fi. I'm trying to be hooked up to the Ethernet, but it's actually through my booster mesh thing down here in the cave. I hope it's a little bit better. I did not like the audio and the visual quality. I sounded like this guy. Remember Max Headroom from another 1980s icon, 1987-88. The show runs, then Coke picks him up as a commercial sponsor. And I think he was a reporter who gets killed, and they take his personality and they put it into a computer program. Super way ahead of its time, kind of an AI type of thing, and really cool, great sense of humor, quirky. Runs, like I said, one season, 87-88. Coke picks it up and gives it some run in Coca-Cola commercials. But I just got tired of that laggy, that skipping kind of thing that was happening. So I'm just only on Ethernet through the booster. Hopefully no more max headroom. But also what it means is no more card cam, because I can't be both on Ethernet and Wi-Fi. I have to be on the same network, so I can't use my phone for my camera. But whatever, I'll just hold up a card to the camera and you'll be fine. We'll be fine. Everybody will be happy. So as I said, this is episode 23, Games About to Start. 51st Annual All-Star Game, San Francisco, July 1984. Games about to start. Or, as hip-hop icons Run DMC say, in You Be Illin', today you want a ticket to see Dr. J. Front row seats in free, no pay. Radio in hand, snacks by feet. Game's about to start, you kicking popcorn to the beat. You finally wake up, Doc's gone to town, around the back, through the hoop, then you scream, touchdown, you be illin'. Dun 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 dun. You, yo man, anything to bring Run DMC to the party, and anything to show you my 1972 Dr. J, a rookie card. This to me is a top 3 card of the 1970s, and maybe a top 3 card in my collection. I love this golden egg yolk color Dr. J Virginia Squires jersey. It's actually a good looking set. It's got like the color backgrounds, like 1958 Topps baseball, 1972 Topps basketball. It's so good with that Squires running across the top of it. No fisheye on this one, PSA 7. I might get a different one next if I had to do it all over again. I definitely bought this one at the height. Could be a tiny bit more center, but man, this is clean. Great color, no fisheye. take a look at the gratuitous opportunity to show you my Dr. J rookie card, ABA ball. This is such an awesome card. Also, when is it not fun to talk about the ABA, which ran, of course, 1967 to 1976 until being absorbed by the NBA. And really the absorption, most of all, was Dr. J, who was playing for the ABA champion New York Nets. The NBA also absorbed the Denver Nuggets. Congratulations, Denver, on your first title. Indiana Pacers and the San Antonio Spurs. There were two teams that were not absorbed from the ABA, which had shrunk to 6 teams by that point. Those two teams were the Kentucky Colonels, who were actually one of the better teams in the ABA. Their owner took a few $1,000,000 and ran. And the Spirits of St. Louis, who actually hadn't been a franchise in St. Louis for even that long. Their owners, the Silna brothers, may be the savviest sports businessmen you've never heard of. ABA being absorbed by the NBA, they only want 4 teams. These 2 teams, the Kentucky Colonels and the Spirits of St. Louis, are going away. The Kentucky owner takes the money. The Silna brothers instead ask for a 1/7 portion, a 1/7 share of all TV revenue that was to be allotted to the 4 ABA teams being absorbed into the NBA. The total amount came to about 2% of NBA TV money. What does that end up meaning? Those Silna boys, their mama didn't raise no dummies. Oh my God. This agreement was to go into perpetuity, this 2.32%. The Kentucky Colonels guy took $3.3 million. The Silnas, the owners of the Spirits of St. Louis, in 2012, that little sliver that they said that they wanted into perpetuity of NBA TV revenue, how could they have known the game would go global? By 2012, $255 million they'd earned. Oh my God. Finally, in 2014, they agreed to a reduced amount of money on an annual basis in exchange for the NBA giving them $500 million, $500 million. For all you do, this bud's for you, Silnas. Holy moly, they got over on the association. Anyway, if you want to read more, great book, Loose Balls, Terry Pluto, 2007 will tell you all this and much, much more. Super fun read. Terry Pluto, Loose Balls, all about the ABA. Game's about to start. Bright sun shining down, deep shadows sweeping across the stadium, packed house, flags swirling all different ways in that candlestick way. Al notes there's a jet stream that can help balls get out in a hurry to right, and that is true. Willie Mack made a lot of damage with that jet stream out to right. And even Willie Mays, who was a righty, actually learned how to hit balls to right center to try to take advantage of it. You hear Earl Weaver add, in the pregame, Reggie Jackson and Eddie Murray were putting on quite a show, and I was there, and Earl's right. It was awesome. Why am I talking about a bunch of batting practice homers hit by Reggie and Eddie Murray for the crowd's delight? Because that, friends, is the inspiration for what came in 1985, which is the very first home run derby at the All-Star Game. Originally, it was AL versus NL for total home runs in league, in AL and NL, who could win it that way. But there was also an individual winner, and who won the Home Run Derby in its inaugural 1985 edition? None other than Dave Parker. I'm not going to show you Dave Parker's 1985 tops. I'm going to show you, because you know I love the Cobra, I'm going to show you my favorite Dave Parker card, and I have a few. The one that I'm going to show you is his 1976 Topps. To me, this is the essential Parker card. Look at that. Finishes his swing. Got that old kind of mustardy pirate helmet. Now, if you have the card, you'll be able to see this better than on your screen. You got this big gold chain in mid-bounce on his neck. Look at those deep colors. Look at the detail crisp behind him on the dugout. Beautiful centering on this one. This, to me, is such a just gorgeous Dave Parker card. And also why I love it is I love the ascent. This is Parker coming into Dave Parker. This is the Cobra just starting to coil, learning to strike on his way to the top. 1978 MVP. I like Dave Parker, so what? 1985 Home Run Derby champion. Finally, game's about to start. I promise you. Here we go. Lou Whitaker steps in against Charlie Lee. Remember, let's go back to that 1985 thing. First home run derby, and also, do you remember 1985 is Minneapolis at the Hubert H. Humphrey Metrodome? Lou Whitaker forgets his uniform. You don't have to remember the nostalgia. I'll remember it for you. You don't have to hold on to the minutia. I got your back. So Whitaker is an all-star. He forgets his uni. Although when I did a little dive, I remembered this part I don't understand. He didn't forget his whole uniform. He left one of his bags on the back seat and he brought the other bag. So he actually has his pants, but he doesn't have his jersey or his hat. Doesn't have his glove. Doesn't have his helmet. For some reason, he thought to put the uniform pants in the luggage that made it with him. The weird thing about that is, doesn't it strike you kind of weird? Why would he put his jersey in one bag and his pants in another? That's the little detail I keep getting stuck on. That would be weird to me if I'm packing. The jersey and the pants, they have to go together. They're related. They're a uniform, one bag. But not Lou. So Lou's the 85 All-Star game. They try to send along a replacement uniform from Detroit. It gets hung up or lost when it's being shipped. Game day, he's got nothing to wear. What do? A clubhouse attendant goes up into the concourse, goes into a souvenir shop and buys a replica jersey of the Detroit Tigers. Buys a replica hat of the Detroit Tigers, goes back into the clubhouse, takes a black Sharpie and a number 1 stencil, and stencils a number 1 on the back of his jersey. I'm going to show you this. You're like, oh my God, Dave, you're right. Check this out. There it is. Can you see that? Look at that cheap, trashy uniform. Let's go full. Let's just go full screen layout so you can see a little. All right. That is... Look, it's all shiny and satiny and thin. You can totally see his undershirt sticking through there. The black number 1 is low and small, and I don't even know if it's centered actually, but whatever. Do you remember when Lou Whitaker forgot his uniform? 1985 All-Star game. But we're here, 1984. Whitaker stepping in. Charlie Lee takes the first pitch for a strike, and then Lee throws in this great change, gets Whitaker out in front, kind of on his front foot, but he swings early and he pulls it down the right field line, ends up with a double standing on second base. Whitaker, lead off double, man on, nobody out. You think about Lou Whitaker, 75.1 career WAR. Plays for the Detroit Tigers, 1977, 1995. Really awesome. One of those guys plays his whole career for a single team. The year previous, 1976, he's in Lakeland, Florida, playing for future Detroit Tiger, Marlin, and Pirate manager Jimmy Leland. Oh, you gotta love a manager who smokes in a dugout. So he's playing for Leland, 1976. He stole 5 bases in one game. And get this, Lou Whitaker, that same game you stole 5 bags. Whitaker stole home 3 times. He stole home 3 times in one game while playing for Lakeland, 1976. Can you imagine? He's already stolen home twice. How can he get you a 3rd time? That must have been so amazing to see that. Whitaker makes his debut with his long-time double play combo partner, buddy, Alan Trammell on September 9th, 1977 in Fenway. He's hitting in the number 2 spot between ex-con and great stolen base king Ron LaFleur, who was batting leadoff, and hitting just ahead of Tiger number 3 hitter Rusty Staub. Lou Whitaker, man, 75 WAR, 75.1 WAR. Gets no love for the Hall of Fame, you know. He was on the ballot 2001, failed to get the requisite 5%, only got 2.9% in 2001, drops off the ballot, and he actually is not eligible for consideration until the post-1980 Hall of Fame committee convenes in 2025. I mean, what do you think? The guy had some great numbers. With Trammell together, they played 1,918 games for Detroit as that combo. Put up some real good numbers. 5-time All-Star, 4-time Silver Slugger, won 3 Gold Gloves, a World Series. Trammell made the Hall. I don't know. Seems like one of those guys, never the best at anything, but just did it for a long, long time. After the 1984 World Series, what is Whitaker's greatest moment? Well, I'm going to say it was in January of 1983. Season 4, Episode 8 of Magnum P.I. Magnum is in Detroit. The episode is actually about TC driving the Ferrari. I don't know if he had Magnum's permission or not. Driving the Ferrari, and he injures a guy. And TC has to step into the ring and take his place. Turns out the guy was a fighter. This episode also features Shannon Doherty and Lou Whitaker and Alan Trammell as themselves. Magnum's hanging out in a bar, talking to the bartender, talking about the Tigers, wearing a Tigers hat. Somehow, and he's talking to Trammell. He's talking to Whitaker, and they leave him a ticket for the next day's game, and it's a little heavy-handed. But still, another legendary athlete, 2 athletes, who got to appear on Magnum P.I., and that is the second mention I've offered of Magnum P.I. on the Ray to Rabbi Sports Card Podcast. I told you there's pop culture at the intersection. Let me show you my Whitaker card. It's my 1984 Topps. Got that weird-looking big helmet, kazoo ear flap thing in the portrait picture, but whatever. Finishing a swing. Decent. Not much to say about the card, but it is in the master set of the 84 All-Star Game. With Carew standing on second, nobody out. Rodney Cline. Carew steps in. Remember the Carew stance? Kind of like hunched, crouching, bat back, almost parallel to the ground. It said he had an infinite number of batting stances. I also once heard he had 11. But he's like crouched down, got that weight back, bat flat, kind of doing like playing the flute with his hands on the bat. But it's an aging Rod Carew. God, I used to love Rod Carew, but it's an aging Rod Carew, 18-time All-Star Carew. At this point, this would be his 18th and final game. He actually was an All-Star every single season of his career until his final year, 1985. I wonder why they didn't hook him up like they did Yaz and Bench with that honorary thing so he could have made the team. They did it for Yaz and Bench 1983, did not do it for Carew in 85, 18-time All-Star. 6 times he started at second base. 6 times he started at first base. We did a deep dive into Carew, and I could talk about him all day. Only thing to say is that they question from the booth if he belongs there. Coming in with a 292 average. Eddie Murray had a much better first half, but it's like the champ. You got to beat the champ. You got to beat him so decisively to become the champ. So Carew gets the nod. And Weaver also notes that maybe someday Murray would be the guy who wasn't so deserving, but because of his greatness over an extended age, he gets the start. But it's sad. The bat speed isn't there anymore. The hand-eye is diminished just a little bit. He fouls the first pitch straight back. Can't catch up to a Charlie Lee fastball, makes it 0-2, and then takes a called third strike, a fastball right down the middle. Carew out looking for out number 1, brings up the 1983 world champion shortstop, the 1983 most valuable player, the great Cal Ripken Jr. This would be All-Star appearance number 2 of 19 for Cal. We'll do a deeper dive into Ripken on another day, but he stands in there. Got that big, remember how upright he was? The bat was up. He was tall, hardly bent his knees at all early in his career. Ripken stepping in. Whitaker takes his lead. Lead gets a little bit bigger. Ripken takes a called strike one. On the 0-1, he hits just a roller, hits a ground ball to Schmidt. No problem. Schmidt up with it at third, on to first, and 2 away with 1 on and 2 out. Big Dave Winfield leading the major leagues at the break with that .370 batting average. He already had 3 5-hit games at that point in the season, including 2 in the month of June. Takes a ball from Lee and pretty much just like Ripken, hits a roller to Schmidt for out number 3. Not that exciting of a top half of the first. No runs on 1 hit, 1 man left at the end of a half. It's the American League nothing and the National League coming up. Cut to a break, and it is a commercial for Pepsi, the choice of a new generation. Remember the Cola Wars of the 1980s? Pepsi's on the rise. Coke battling back. 1982, Coke releases Diet Coke. 1983, Coke releases caffeine-free Coke. Caffeine-free Diet Coke. Skipping over 84, what's the biggest move Coke makes in response to Pepsi's surge in popularity? New Coke. New Coke. Bad idea. Tasted like Pepsi. People went crazy. People protested. I wish people cared about democracy as much as they cared about soda. There was huge petitions and protests against Coca-Cola over them changing the formula of Coca-Cola. Oh my God, the earth is melting. The ice caps are, they're gone. We're done. There's no ozone. Massive floodings in coastal regions. But don't mess with my soda, man. Don't mess with my Coke. Coke gives it up. Coke gives aim. Coke goes back to original Coke. And remember, there was like a little bridge when they had New Coke and Original Coke, and then they got rid of Coke. And some say it was all a ploy, but I don't think so. Then we have a commercial for the Honda ATC. Woo, going 3-wheeling, it's my lucky day. Hugely popular in the 1980s, like 1983 to about 1987. The Honda ATC, other companies called it an ATV. It was a 3-wheeler. Super, super fun. Small, tons of torque. Unfortunately, terribly unstable as well. The way they were built is they had wide tires, very short frame, and they really relied on riders to counterbalance the turns. And if you did not counterbalance the turn, well, let's take a look at this picture. This would happen for you listening on the pod. It's an ATC going over on its SIDE. This guy is rolling it. What happens, you would try to turn instead of putting your weight back to keep it from leaning in, keep from flipping. If you let the torque take you, well, it would roll over you. It was just light, small footprint. Because it was small, it was easy to reach the controllers, reach the pedals, and of course to hit the throttle. You didn't have to be big to ride an ATC. Why is that a problem? Well, kids aren't big, and kids typically aren't that heavy, unless they drink too much of New Coke. But whatever. So there were a lot of accidents. As a matter of fact, between 1983 and 1988, there were 300,000 injuries from ATVs, 1,000 deaths. So finally, they're banned, right? Because of that compact size, the high center of gravity, really tricky to turn and counterbalance. And I got to come clean. I definitely crashed one of these. My buddy Clayton Matchett up on his farm in Zamora, summer between sophomore and junior year, UC Davis. Man, they party in the 4th of July in the country, drinking beers, shooting shotguns, riding ATVs. I mean, good, like old school fun. And I definitely, just as I described, didn't sit in it when I was making my turn, let it go this way, and the thing just rolled. And thankfully, I got out of the way enough that it did not roll over me. Hadn't thought about that for a while. My dad might be listening. Kind of kept that from you for 30 or so years, Dad, but I was just fine. Just fine. Anyway, what do we do today? I'm going to wrap things up right now. Well, I talked about funerals a little bit. God bless her soul. Game's about to start. We talked a little Run DMC, Raising Hell, Side 2, Song 3, You Be Illin'. Finally Wake Up, Doc's Gone to Town. We looked at his 1972 Topps rookie, one of my all-time favorite sports cards. 1976, Dave Parker as a highlight to him winning the initial Home Run Derby 1985, which reminded me of the time Lou Whitaker left his uniform behind and he had to wear one from the souvenir stand. Ran down some Whitaker's career, pretty darn good. Didn't mention he's actually third all-time in Detroit Tigers history in games played, behind only Ty Cobb and Al Kaline. Mentioned that he and Alan Trammell had a little guest spot as themselves, Magnum P.I. 1983. Rod Carew past his prime. Cal Ripken just getting started. Dave Winfield, like Ripken, hitting a roller to Mike Schmidt at third. Pepsi, the choice of a new generation as part of the Cola Wars. And we wrapped it up by reminiscing about Honda ATCs and three-wheel ATVs and the time I rolled one at Clayton's Farm in Zamora. All right, that's all I have to say today. I got to get back to the synagogue to lead services. If it is your thing, to my Jewish brothers and sisters, I wish you a sincere Shabbat Shalom. And to everybody, everywhere, may you be blessed and enjoy health and long life. So long for now.